explicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballad or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jacobin, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Cabiese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach, and then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations at elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like or and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel.
Hello and welcome to Hyperpolyglotting with Elise, the stream where we'd really like to just kind of learn all the languages. Hello, Floki officiel. Ah, liberté pour la Palestine. Ouais, toujours. Biruch webidam. And how's everybody doing, chat? We've got a number of things to look at as I first get a couple of things set up here. I need to just get the chat widget where I can see it. Oh, not bad. Don't think I've seen you be here before. Are you, is this your first time? If so, welcome. Is there any particular language you're learning? So yesterday, we were looking, thanks to a heads up from a video by Stuart J. Raj. Oh, well, welcome. Always nice to see new people. Where are you joining us from, if you don't mind my asking? From a channel belonging to a language learning app I had never heard of called AirLearn. And what we discovered was it was just complete and utter slop. Ah, mi Tunis. Well, welcome. أنا بدرس اللغة العربية ولكن لن أتكلمها جيد جدا. I'm working on it. أتحاول أن بدرسها من الميادين ومن الموسيقى. Actually, I might start out with something else. There's a channel called Arabic All the Time, and he said he's building the Dreaming Spanish of Arabic, and I think that sounds really cool. So I think we're gonna check that out first. My Arabic is sort of... Oh, this guy! Yes, I've seen him before. He does a lot of basic... Ah ouais, moi aussi, je parle français beaucoup mieux que l'arabe. Jusqu'à ce moment-ci, hein. And he does a lot of beginner comprehensible input kind of content, very compatible with an ALG approach, certainly. We looked at him before on that, so he's trying to build something bigger than that. Ah ouais, c'est vrai. Les conséquences linguistiques de l'occupation française.
أنا تغيرت حياتي. أنا لازم أعمل موقع لتعليم اللغة العربية. أي واحد بده يتعلم عربي بأي مكان بالعالم في يروح على Arabic All the Time.
Okay, I'm gonna drop the link in chat for anyone curious. Moi, je suis des États-Unis. شيطان الأكبر. And this is Arabic All the Time, and I had watched a couple of sort of beginner comprehensible input videos of his a couple of months ago. Ah, le Fusha. Ouais, le Fusha, la Fusha est belle, mais ça, c'est utile jusqu'à un certain point quand il s'agit d'interagir avec des gens, c'est pas à Nablus ou à Tunis. Ouais, c'est vrai. Les versions classiques des langues ont toujours leur attraction. C'est vrai avec l'anglais. On dirait l'anglais de Shakespeare, par exemple. L'allemand de Goethe. Le français de, je sais pas, Dumas. De Molière.
ليش أنا قررت أبدأ Arabic All the Time ولوين رايحين؟
Avec la Foussa, on peut parler aussi comme Abu Obeida. Cela signifie que la structure, ouais. The Spanish Epiphany.
أنا قررت أبدأ Arabic All the Time بعد.
Okay, so he's doing this whole thing in Arabic. And the title was in English, so I thought this might be one that was. Let me see. Est-ce qu'on a des sous-titres? Ah, sous-titres arabe. Ah, ok. Ah, je crois qu'il parle le libanais, en fait.
ما كان عندي تجربة كتير حلوة وكتير ناجحة بتعلم اللغة الإسبانية عن طريق Comprehensible Input.
Ah, I see. Il est en train d'apprendre l'espagnol avec les LG, avec l'input compréhensible. Ce qui est bien compatible avec ce qu'il fait avec l'arabe, avec sa chaîne.
أنا لمن اكتشفت Comprehensible Input أنا تغيرت حياتي. أنا مبسوط كتير.
Okay. Switching to English, since most of the people who watch this are mostly English speakers, but if I'm understanding him correctly, when he discovered Dreaming Spanish, it changed his life and it made him very happy. Oui, il a l'air même trop heureux, on dirait.
واو الكومبريهنسبل انبوت طريقة كتير سهلة وممتعة كتير لتعلم لغة.
I mean, so far, I think I'm actually understanding him fairly well. Ah non. Parle dans la langue que tu préfères. Mais surtout, le français ou l'anglais, ce seraient les langues de ces trois que je comprends le mieux. Mais vous pouvez utiliser la langue que vous préférez, hein? Même, je sais pas, russe ou allemand, japonais. je peux aussi.
فأنا بحثت بالإنترنت. أنا دورت باليوتيوب.
Chercher. Okay, so he was searching around in the internet.
مواقع على الإنترنت بجوجل، وأنا حاولت أشوف هل في comprehensible input بالعربي.
Okay. Oh, holy shit, I'm really understanding this quite well. Ah, parce qu'il enseigne le chami. C'est une chaîne, si je me souviens bien, qui existe pour enseigner l'arabe, le chami. Il est libanais, je crois.
بعد ما أنا دورت كتير، أنا بحثت كتير، أنا ما شفت كتير comprehensible input بالعربي.
والله ما كتير من ال comprehensible input بالعربي. He said he looked he looked far and wide, and he did not find any comprehensible input in Arabic, and that is very true. Especially like beginner content. Of course, when you get to sort of a more intermediate level, it gets a lot easier because you have enough vocabulary. You can start to understand more content that is geared towards native speakers, so you can understand things like more like Basil al-Hajj, for example, or the news, Al-Mayadeen or Al Jazeera or Al Arabiya or whatever, or like just channels that are about stuff that you're interested in. But for beginners, that is really challenging. There are for European languages there are tons. Hey Sean, how you doing? Welcome. It's sort of a bit of Fusha, a bit of Levantine. I try. So like I get a lot of Fusha just because I watch like Al Mayadeen and I watch stuff like that, and all of that is in Fusha. But I'm interested in learning Levantine just to be able to understand like Palestinian Arabic and Lebanese Arabic in particular. Okay. And feel free, si je traduis mal, corrigez-moi. my like, I think I'm understanding this guy correctly, but my Arabic is limited, and I'm not used to hearing Shami so much. I'm used to a lot of fusa, a lot of news reports and things like that. So I may get some of it wrong, but I think this is a video. I don't know if you were here when I started it, Sean, but it was called "Why I'm Creating the Dreaming Spanish for Arabic." And so what he's been saying so far, if I'm understanding him correctly, and I think I am, which I'm kind of happy with, is that he had been learning Spanish through comprehensible input, and it was life-changing for him. But he decided to go look for stuff to learn Arabic that way, and he couldn't find any. So, and that's where we are now.
في بس شوي صغيرة كتير لحتى الواحد يتعلم لغة عن طريق الكومبريهنسبل input لازم يسمع كتير.
You have to listen a lot.
يسمع لمئات الساعات.
Hundreds of hours.
آلاف الساعات.
Thousands even.
باليوتيوب ما في مئات الساعات من الكومبريهنسبل.
والله ما في. Yeah.
فكرت ليش ما في comprehensible input is wow شيء كتير حلو شيء رائع فأنا بعد.
Okay. Yeah, I mean this is something I've noticed as well. Like when you have like the like Western European languages, there's tons of stuff. I mean, I have to say, for example, Dreaming Spanish does an excellent job with Spanish. I mean, in particular, of representing the sort of linguistic diversity of the language, which is extensive. That is a real challenge because there are so many different ways of speaking Spanish. And at the very least, if you want to be competent in it, you have to be able to understand it all fairly well. That's what the E stands for. What's white Arabic? شو هي العربية البيضاء؟
بعد ما فكرت أنا قررت أنا لازم أعمل
الشوالي or شاولي? I'm not familiar with the name.
لتعليم اللغة العربية عن طريق الكومبريهنسبل input. طبعا هون في دائما طيارات بتمر بالسماء. أنا عايش.
That just reminds me of a question, one of the weird linguistic questions that comes to my mind. Why is it? Okay, so plane is tayara. Okay, which makes sense. But then it seems like they built the word for drone off of the word for car, musayara. I mean, isn't that based, which seems counterintuitive, since cars mostly do not fly and are much larger. Oh, okay, so sort of blanched Arabic.
قريب من المطار ولهيك دائما في طيارة عم بتمر هلا. هاي الطيارة
Good timing.
راحت على المطار ومثل ما فيكم تتخيلوا هذا الشيء صعب. هذا الشيء بيحتاج وقت كتير.
احتاج وقت كتير.
أنا لازم سجل فيديوهات كتير.
Okay, so he's got to make a whole lot of videos. That's true. Like if he's going to try to fill the beginner to intermediate comprehensible input. Oh, okay. Wait. Now
هذا الشيء بيحتاج.
احتاج. Is that word related to احتياج?
وقت كتير. أنا لازم سجل فيديوهات كتير. لازم سجل فيديوهات beginners لل B1 B2 لكل المستويات.
بس الكلمة بيحتاج is it related to احتياج? Are they like related words, or is that just a coincidence? Hey, language mania, ahoy.
نحن حاليا بأرابيك all the time عنا فيديوهات لكل المستويات.
Okay, like, so I mean, if he's trying to fill the gap that exists for beginner to intermediate content for like Arabic CI then that is a monumental task, because there is so little of this stuff. That is مربوط بالآل. Yeah. Oh yeah, ihtiyacım. Yeah, ihtiyacım var. Of course. Yeah, I mean, it's really handy. Arabic ends up in all sorts of places. There's Arabic in Georgian. Like the word for a picture in Georgian is surati, from surah. And like to think, thinking is pikra, pikreba, from or pikri, from pikra, fikra. You just find Arabic all over the place. Like the entire Silk Road is just full of it. If you have Arabic vocabulary, it can get you pretty far in a lot of languages. Because a lot of the words that you find in Turkish, you also find in Farsi, you also find in Urdu. So you can go a lot of places and have at the very least some start on the vocabulary. Oh yeah, there are lots of Arabic words in Spanish. Like even the word for until, atta comes from hatta. I mean, in Portuguese too, até is from hatta. Yeah. Yeah, something checao, satima. Yeah, Maltese is a language I've always been very curious about. Algodón, alcántara, alhambra. Yeah, like there's that is the reason why the Iberian Peninsula has a word for until. Yeah, ojalá. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is why the Iberian Peninsula's word for until is nothing like all the rest of the words for the rest of the Romance languages words for until. Like it doesn't sound like jusqu'à, sinoa, finoa. Yeah, I mean and Sicily, because the other half of Maltese is Sicilian. It's Arabic and Sicilian. Yeah, it's Arabic and Sicilian, which is also why the Sicilians have a lot of their own versions of Arab food. Like there is Sicilian hummus. They have their own version of it that they've been doing for hundreds of years because they're just closer to North Africa than they are to most of Europe.
بس ما عنا فيديوهات كتير بكل مستوى. أنا بدي أعمل فيديوهات كتير عن مواضيع كتيرة لكل
Couscous.
مستوى.
That's what I was thinking of. Couscous, not hummus.
أنا بدي Arabic all the time تصير
And Sicilians end up everywhere.
مثل dreaming Spanish للإسباني.
Wasini أيضا.
أنا بدي Arabic all the time تصير مكتبة كتير كبيرة من فيديوهات ال comprehensible input للعربي. كمان أنا بدي أعمل فيديوهات بلهجات مختلفة.
Oh yeah, I mean, basically a lot of the fundamentals of math and stuff like that. I mean, Europeans got them from Arabs, and architecture, using seasoning properly.
أنا عم بعمل كتير فيديوهات باللهجة الشامية وكمان عم بعمل فيديوهات بالفصحى. بس أنا بالمستقبل
Okay, so he's gonna be doing Fusha and he's gonna be doing Shami.
بدي أعمل فيديوهات باللهجة المصرية.
Egyptian he's gonna add. Neat.
بدي
Okay.
Arabic
God, this is a
all the-
monumental project. في المستقبل. This is a huge
تكون
project he's taking on. I mean, I have to say, from the videos that I've seen him do, we watched a couple on stream a while back. Those were quite good, and if he's going to do that in that kind of a vein, I think he could do really excellent stuff. But he has bitten off a lot of work. I hope he has people to work with, so he doesn't have to make all of these things himself. Because I can tell you, as a one-woman operation over here, that doing all of your own editing and your own your own writing and production and all of that is time consuming. Oh, c'est beau. قصرين.
مكتبة لكل اللهجات لكل المستويات ولمواضيع مختلفة من الرياضة للسياسة للتاريخ الجغرافيا.
So okay, he's gonna stuff on
and
history and politics and all sorts of other things, and he's switched over to Fusha now.
كتير مواضيع بحيث أي واحد بده يتعلم عربي بأي مكان بالعالم في يروح على Arabic all the time.
Oh, I said 20, but I have no idea.
يختار المستوى المناسب له ويشوف فيديوهات مناسبة لاهتمامه الشخصي.
Hostia, muy peninsular eso.
طبعا هلا في كتير.
Okay, so I'm gonna just drop the link here in chat. I mean, I think this is a cool project because we need this. Like, for learning Arabic, we absolutely there really is not enough material for beginner level comprehensible input in any variation of the language. So I think it's great that he's doing this. I think he's definitely a good person to do it. I think he does a good job with what he's with the videos that I've seen himself, him do so far. let's see. There's a video, I was kind of curious. There's a channel, I do a lot of stuff around learning Japanese because Japanese is one of the languages I've had around me most of my life, actually, at this point. So, and one of the channels I cannot recommend enough is Context First Japanese with Yuta, because, I mean, he has stuff that actually is educational at every level, because he does a really good job of explaining why certain, not just why a lot of sort of direct translations that people do in their head into Japanese sound weird, you know, from a Japanese perspective, but also because he explains why. Like, I have a pretty good instinct for what sounds odd in Japanese, because I've, you know, been speaking it for a very long time and I'm just kind of used to it. But for explaining why is difficult, and he does a really good job with it. And he comes up with very just interesting topics. This one, so we're going to look at this. I'm going to drop the link in chat in just a sec. This is about kedo, which mostly means but also doesn't sometimes.
But. And kara is typically...
And kara, which is mostly because, but also sometimes not. Because that is just how Japanese rolls. I'm gonna drop this link into chat so people can see it. Oh, and by the way, since we've got at least one new person here, let me just drop the link for my Discord for this channel into chat. Invite to server. Copied. There we go. Anyone who would like to join can do so right there. And now let's just have a look at this. This is definitely, for anyone who's trying to learn Japanese or just improve their Japanese as well, or refine their understanding of how Japanese works, this is a channel I totally recommend.
Because, but there are some situations where you can use both, and that's confusing for some people. So let me explain.
Yeah.
First, kedo as but. Let's say you're planning to go to comic market, but the weather forecast says it's going to rain. Your friend might use ame, rain, iku, to go, and say, ame da kedo iku, it's going to rain, but are we going?
Yeah. I mean, and of course, one of the other things kedo does is just introduces things. People use that all the time where it isn't but. You know, you'll say, ちょっと話あるけど, which literally sounds like there is something to talk about, but the but is just a way to sort of invite somebody to reply, just sort of softens the statement, because 話ある, if you say that just directly without anything after it, it feels potentially very ominous. It's like, we have to talk. So you say, ちょっと話あるけどいい? You know, there's something we need to talk about. Is this a good time?
And here, kedo pretty much means but. And you can use もちろん, of course, and say もちろん行くよ. Of course we are going. And that's pretty straightforward. Now, let's use kara with this. You can say 休みを取る to take a day off, and say もちろん行くよ. 休み取ったから.
Yeah, and that's easy enough because, again, I mean, that's expressing that this is the reason why you're going one way or another. You took a whole day off, so obviously you gotta go.
Of course I'm going, because I took a day off. And it's true that a lot of Japanese people work long hours, but it's still most of the time possible to take a day off because we are not crazy. We're just a bunch of masochists.
Yes, even the country that is famous for being workaholics, to the extent that the Japanese word for dying from overwork has kind of made it a little bit into English, karoshi, has more paid time off than we do.
So far.
So in a textbook, when people go to buy a ticket, they start the conversation with, 切符買いたいんですけど. Yeah, exactly. That is what that but is for. It's like, it's just to make it softer because otherwise you're making this like kind of a firm statement. 切符買いたいんです and it's like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. So much of Japanese is just about softening statements that otherwise might sound a little bit harsh.
けど and kara are pretty straightforward. But we also use けど to introduce some background information.
Here we go.
For example, you can use 旅行 trip, お土産 souvenir, and say 旅行行くけどお土産いる? I'm going on a trip. Do you want a souvenir? And here, けど simply introduces some background information or some context. And you might ask, well, what if I didn't use けど and just say 旅行行くお土産いる? And
the subtext for this is, I'm already gonna have to buy so many fucking gifts. So please say no in a clear enough way that I have plausible deniability when I don't buy you one, because half of my trip budget is already going to the gifts.
the answer is the sentences
To
don't
random
really
people.
flow that well, unless you add some dramatic pause and say 旅行行く I'm going on a trip. お土産いる? Do you want a souvenir? But generally speaking, in this kind of situation, we tend to use connectors like けど in Japanese and say 旅行行くけどお土産いる? Because we don't want to finish every sentence, so
Yeah, I mean, this is in translating between Japanese and English. This is a thing that you also really have to pay attention to, because often things will break into more sentences in English than in Japanese. A lot of the time, you will have something that's 2 or 3 sentences in English, and in Japanese, it's just one, because they use connectors and kind of put it all together. Japanese doesn't really care so much about run-on sentences as English does. Like, the maximum sentence length is there's much more flexibility there for Japanese.
we just keep going without finishing a sentence like never-ending One Piece episodes. Now, here, we generally don't use から and say 旅行行くからお土産いる? Because in this context, it sounds like you are trying to justify why you are buying a souvenir. And
Which doesn't really make sense when you're asking whether you need to buy one for somebody.
at the same time, you're asking this question to your friend. So it doesn't quite fit the context, but in a slightly different situation. For example, if you say something like 旅行行くからお土産買ってこようか? How about I buy some souvenirs since I'm going on a trip?
Yeah.
And now it sounds fine because it's more like, okay, I'm going to do this since I'm going on a trip. So I would say justifying kind of makes sense. And you can also use けど and say 旅行行くけどお土産買ってこようか?
Yeah, and that is softening it becomes a more unspecified relationship. It's just because now it's background information. It's just like, this is a thing that's happening. It is context for understanding the next thing I'm about to say. Whereas you're specifying what kind of context it is with kara.
And if you use けど, it doesn't sound like you're justifying your choice. It's just some background information. So that's the difference. So in many situations, you can use both, but they have different nuances. For example, let's think of a situation where you're trying to ask somebody out. If you use から and say 美味しいレストランあるから行かない? Because there's a good restaurant, do you want to go?
Which already sounds a bit weird because, like, why are we... like, justifying it with the existence of the good restaurant it's just kind of awkward.
It sounds like you're trying to justify your asking out. So if you're not using...
if there weren't a good restaurant, I totally wouldn't ask you out. But a good restaurant exists, so I'm asking you out.
You're asking on somebody because your crush doesn't love you back. This might work because you might need some kind of justification. But if you use けど and say 美味しいレストランあるけど行かない? There's a good restaurant. Do you want to go? It sounds more like you're comfortable asking that person out because you don't need any justification.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a good restaurant. Do you want to go? Now with kedo, it's also very common to end the sentence using desu and say desu kedo. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you can say 予約したんですけど.
Yeah, yeah, because again, this is about softening. It's about sort of inviting. It's about inviting a response, as opposed to like if you just said 予約したんです. That kind of sounds like you're almost kind of raising an objection. Like if somebody said, there are no tables, and then you might say 予約したんですよ. We did reserve. And but when you're beginning the conversation, that's kind of coming on a bit strong. Like you're announcing, we have a reservation, which you say it's better. It's more comfortable if you add a bit of padding to it.
I have a reservation, and let the other person finish the sentence, because in Japanese, we prefer letting somebody else finish your sentence so that if they misinterpret, we can blame them. And if you go to a train station and don't know which train to take, you can ask, すいません、原宿に行きたいんですけど. Excuse me, I want to go to Harajuku. And the staff member will know that you're looking for the right train. Now, there's another way of using kedo, like though in English. For example, you can use 意見 opinion and say ただの意見ですけどね. Well, it's just an opinion though, which
Yeah, and again, this is another example of where it's kind of it's very much a blow softener, because here you've said something and you realize it might be taken the wrong way, and you immediately are trying to walk it back just enough that somebody can say, okay, and just you don't necessarily have to feel the full weight of how somebody might feel about what you just said, or have somebody act on it, and when you were just kind of saying something because they asked, so you soften it by adding, ただの意見ですけどね.
isn't necessarily my favorite expression because it sounds a bit passive aggressive. Like if you have an opinion, you should own it. But you can say solo leveling isn't even a good anime, and add
お前はもう死んでいる。ただの意見ですけどね。
ただの意見ですけどね. Well, it's just an opinion though, except it's not. It's objectively not so good. Now, some people ask about da and say だからor だけど.
And dakara is an interesting one because sometimes it doesn't actually seem to do what it literally appears it should be doing. So a lot of the time when you're in an argument, you will begin a sentence with dakara.
But this is just simple grammar. When you use nouns or not adjective, you simply just add da. Like 雨だけど行く. It's going to rain, but do you want to go? And 雨, rain, is a noun, so you mechanically just add da. So it doesn't really have any meanings here. And with だから, it's the same thing because you can just say 雨だから行かない. I'm not going because it's raining.
Yeah, well, if you need to justify it. Although actually, 雨だけど行かない actually would sound kind of weird there, I think. Well, I mean, no, I guess that could potentially work.
And here again, 雨 is a noun, so I just said だから. And with na adjectives like 大事, important, it's the same thing. I'm gonna use お金, money, and 健康, health, and say お金も大事だけど健康も大事. Money is important, but health is also important. So it's pretty simple. And if you want to learn Japanese for practical purposes, like
definitely always a worthwhile channel to follow if Japanese is a language that you're into. Does a good job of explaining things that are often quite difficult to explain. Now, yesterday, we were looking at this channel from the so-called Airlearn language show. I became aware of it because Stuart J. Raj did a video reacting to a hot mess of a video that they had on the Thai script, and I looked at one yesterday about the Japanese writing system, and it was just such obvious slop. Just completely no human involvement. And also just kind of ridiculous and bizarre. But one thing occurred to me, and I'm kind of curious, chat, if you could help me get to the bottom of this. Because I am 100% certain that that these scripts just came from chatbots. I am 60% certain that the videos are also just, AI generated slop too. That this woman who says all this weird nonsense about languages actually probably is a citizen of the town of Uncanny Valley, population nobody. And so one of the ways you can kind of tell this is by looking at eyes. because deepfakes and Gen AI and that stuff does not do a lot of blinking. In fact, often there will be no blinking. And it's hard for me while I'm talking and analyzing and just dunking on this nonsense to pay all that close attention to the eyes. So if chat would help me out by just keeping an eye and seeing if you see this entity blinking, we will get to the bottom of whether this is anybody. But already now I can say, do not give Airlearn your money. They're putting no effort into this crap. It is zero effort. It is zero quality. It is it's just pure slop. You could easily find better things in other places. The Indo-European Mystery, for example, which supposedly is about how half of the world's languages are related. Secretly related. And the thumbnails are just weird as fuck. Oh, she's wearing something different this time. She was wearing this weird-ass jacket the last time.
There was once a language that nobody alive today has ever heard spoken.
There are lots of languages that nobody alive today have ever heard spoken, though. Manifesting inner peace. Manifesting. M-E-N-I. Okay, so watch those eyes and tell me if you see any blinking.
It was never written down, and yet linguists rebuilt it almost completely. This invisible language links English, French, Russian,
I mean, we're talking about Proto-Indo-European, clearly. Which, rebuilt it almost completely. I mean, that's putting it rather boldly. It's what they posit it must have been based on the developmental path everything else took.
Not just those. It also links Bengali, Albanian, Irish, Persian, Spanish, and many more that don't sound related at all.
I mean, if you know where to look, they sound related.
Welcome to the Airlearn Language Show.
And also these gestures.
And if you want to dive deeper and actually practice language yourself,
and actually practice language, just not any specific language, just language.
Check out the Airlearn.
Okay, there was one blink. I did see that.
It's designed to help you learn languages naturally, from beginner phrases to advanced grammar. English, French, German, Russian, Greek, Hindi. At first glance,
I would not recommend. Just from the quality of these videos, they do not they do not put the kind of effort into their app that I don't even have to look at their fucking app to know I would not recommend it.
Different scripts, different cultures. And yet, linguists agree they all descend from a single ancient ancestor. This family is called Indo-European, and today it includes many of the most widely spoken languages on Earth, used by more than 40% of the world's population.
Okay, yeah, roughly accurate.
But how did anyone figure this out? How did scholars realize that languages as distant as Irish, Albanian, and Bengali?
Albanian, just spoiler alert, is one that took a particularly long time because it really does not sound like it does not sound like anything.
Belong to the same family, even though they don't sound alike at all. To answer that,
These gestures, it's always the exact same gestures, even in really weird ways too.
we need to follow the clues hidden inside everyday words, the kind you use without thinking. The first clues. Long before modern linguistics existed, people started noticing strange similarities. The Romans observed overlaps between Latin and Greek. Scholars in the British Isles noticed that Welsh, Cornish, and Breton seemed connected.
I mean, Welsh and Cornish practically seem, to a great extent, seem almost identical.
Icelandic scholars spotted similarities between Old English and Old Norse.
Icelandic scholars specifically? I'd never heard that. Of course, absolutely nothing on this should be taken as read because it is slop and they do not edit this stuff.
But the real breakthrough came when European travelers reached India. They noticed something uncanny. Sanskrit, an ancient language of India, shared deep grammatical and vocabulary similarities with Latin and Greek.
I mean, it was actually quite a while longer than the first arrival of Europeans to India.
This wasn't borrowing. This was something older. It was as if 3 distinct branches of a tree suddenly revealed the same pattern in their rings. At first,
The whole way this is presented, you can just hear the slop because it's all the same thing. It's not this, it's that. So far she hasn't said anything on a factual level that is really particularly objectionable. But you can just tell the whole way that this is written, no human being had any involvement.
many Europeans believed that all languages came from a single divine source, often assumed to be Hebrew, inspired by the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. But in the 16th and 17th centuries, scholars began questioning that idea.
They began questioning that idea. What?
Joseph Scaliger grouped languages by structure instead of scripture.
Script, I think she means.
Marcus von Boxhorn proposed a shared ancestor he called Scythian. And in 1786, William Jones famously stated that Sanskrit, Greek, and Latin must have sprung from the same source, even if that source no longer existed.
I mean, why did he actually say even if that source no longer? That's such a weird thing to add.
That idea changed everything. For the first time, language families were treated less like legends and more like testable hypotheses. From there, linguists started acting almost like linguistic detectives.
I mean, so linguists were acting like linguists.
Comparing patterns instead of stories to see which languages were truly related. During the
God,
19th
the
century.
the entire style of this is actually kind of painful to watch.
Linguists refined the theory. They realized Latin gave rise to the Romance languages.
I think they already
Slav
knew that.
Slavic languages.
I think they already knew that Latin gave rise to the Romance languages well before then. Because it was, like, fucking obvious.
Formed their own branch. Germanic, Celtic, Indo-Iranian, Baltic, Greek, Armenian, all fit into a larger system. Some languages people assumed were related, like Hungarian, Finnish, Arabic, or Tamil.
I mean, Hungarian and Finnish are related.
Turned out to belong to entirely different families. Eventually,
Like, I mean, Hungarian and Finnish do... Yeah, I mean, Tamil... she is not... I've seen... She or it, I have no idea whether this person is an actual person or just, like, a digestive remnant of Gen AI. Yeah, I mean... This I don't think any research was actually done. The whole way that this is the whole structure of it is just it is screaming chatbot.
the name Indo-European stuck. That's how you get the wild fact that Bengali in South Asia, Irish on the Atlantic coast, and Albanian in the Balkans all sit in different branches of the same giant family tree. They don't look like siblings on the surface, but deep in their grammar and core vocabulary, the family resemblance shows up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Hungarian and Finnish are very distantly related. Yeah, it is one of those relationships that you really have to be, looking at it like a linguist to see, because they are two totally different branches of the Uralic family and have been separated for a very long time. But, I mean, yeah, they absolutely are related.
You can't just compare random words. Languages borrow words all the time. And sometimes similarities...
I mean,
are
these
pure
gestures as well. I mean, the other thing that makes me think that this is actually just pure slop without even a human... I mean, apart from the fact that a human would look at this and say, could we do some rewrites because the whole style of this sucks? But these gestures are not related to anything. Like, it's like a dance more than it is actually saying things that's, using gestures that are related to what you're talking about in some way.
So, linguists use the comparative method. They compare the most basic, everyday words, like numbers, family members, body parts, words that cultures rarely borrow from others. For example, look at the word for 5. Latin, Greek. Russian, Persian.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you would necessarily... If you were trying to illustrate this to people who are not familiar with the idea, I don't know that you would choose this as an example, because there are so much more obvious ones. I mean, it is clear that they're related, if you know how to look at it. But, if you wanted... The word for, say, brother or daughter is a much better example of these relations across branches, because it is much closer to the surface. But at least...
English. Different sounds, but clear patterns. From these patterns, linguists reconstructed an ancient word that likely sounded like a word no one ever wrote, yet one we can still hear echoes of today. The same trick works.
It's not a trick. It is a method. You go back, you look at the development paths of individual languages, and you start to notice that there are certain things that branch off at different points.
It's like mother, brother, or heart.
It actually works better with mother and brother than it does with five. I mean, in terms of illustrating this to people who are completely new to the idea, anyway.
The tiny sound shifts line up across dozens of languages like a secret code. When those shifts are consistent, they're too systematic to be random.
That would be what consistent means.
Point back to a shared ancestor. By tracking
She's making me
consistent
dizzy.
sound changes, linguists slowly reconstructed an entire language now called the Proto-Indo-European. We don't know what its speakers call themselves. We don't know what they believed.
I mean, yeah, because they're all dead and we can't ask them.
We don't even know exactly where they lived. But evidence suggests they lived around 6,000 years ago. Somewhere
Yeah, the
near modern-day-
Proto-Indo-European. Wait, 6,000? I don't think I've heard that number before.
Ukraine and southern Russia. They knew horses. They used wheeled vehicles. And as they migrated,
They knew
Their
horses. Like to get together, to say, to say hello to, or
which split again and again into new branches. Archaeology and ancient DNA now back up parts of this picture, linking the spread of certain cultures and migrations to the spread of Indo-European speech. So it's not just a language
Jesus.
story. It's also a story about how people, technology,
Yeah, I mean, this isn't even as bad as the one we looked at yesterday, I have to say. This is bad because it is just clearly chatbot speech. The entire style of it is just constant chatbot cliches. But the other one was just so bizarre. It went off on the most ridiculous tangents. And any actual person who was editing this would have cut it off at various points and said, okay, we can leave that out. Because it doesn't make any... Like, this one of these videos we looked at yesterday, where the thing was... it's like the 5 languages that are easiest for English speakers. And the chatbot felt the need, for whatever reason, statistically, to go... now, just because they're easy for English speakers does not in any way devalue them. They are capable of all kinds of expression. And it's like, who feels the need? No human being feels the need to clarify that. That is just some statistical artifact.
and ideas moved across continents. Over centuries, Atlantean languages emerged.
Anatolian.
Like Hittite.
Hittite.
Over centuries, Atlantean languages emerged, like Hittite. Indo-Iranian languages spread east. Greek, Armenian, and Albanian formed separately.
Okay, but I have never... Wait, is there a belief that Hittite is Indo-European? Oh, actually, yes it is. Oh, okay. But it's not Hittite. Apparently okay, yeah. Also known as Nassite, is an extinct Indo-European language formerly spoken in Anatolia during the Bronze Age. Okay, I did not realize that. I assumed it was probably, Proto-Semitic or something.
Italic languages gave rise to Latin. Germanic languages formed near the North Sea. Celtic languages spread across Europe. Latin survived and evolved into French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese.
I mean, I think the point is it didn't survive, and that's why it ended up evolving into all these other things.
And Romanian. Other branches vanished, leaving only clues behind. Some branches, like Attalonian and
That's two different ways. Anatoly, it's not even a hard thing to say. First it was Attalanian, and now it's... What the fuck?
leaving only clues behind. Some branches, like Attalonian and
Like Abyllonian, this the language of the bivalves.
Carian, disappeared completely as spoken languages, but their text still helps confirm the family tree. Proto-Indo-European was never written, and yet it lives on. Every time you say mother, name, three, or night, you're speaking fragments of something ancient. Language isn't just a tool. It's a memory.
Well, once again, we get this. We get like the classic, the classic chatbot cliche. It's not this. It's that.
And when you learn a new language, you're not starting fresh. You're reconnecting with something thousands of years old.
But you're only reconnecting with it if you previously were connected with it. Like, what is that? You're reconnecting with something thousands of years old. Like, if you are a speaker of an Indo-European language and you learn Swahili, I don't think you're necessarily reconnecting with something as you're connecting with something. Because, like, they're different language families.
You're also learning to hear those hidden family ties. Why pater, padre, and father feel strangely close.
They feel strangely close.
Or why tri, tres, and three line up
Try. Tri.
so neatly. And if you want to go beyond just watching, you can practice what you learn with the AirLearn app itself.
Yeah, don't. I mean, they've decided to be like Duolingo. Apparently they're going to be like Duolingo, but without ever building up the goodwill of using at least some human beings to make sure that at least some of it makes some kind of sense. Like, seriously.
It's perfect for exploring new words, practicing pronunciation, and seeing how languages connect in real life. So the next time you see Bengali, Albanian, or Irish on a map, remember, they're not random dots.
They're not dots at all on a map, usually.
They're leaves on the same enormous Indo-European tree.
Yeah, God, that... Jesus. Okay. And that's why half the world's languages are secretly related. Like, absolutely nothing about... She blinked once, I think. I don't know if I might have missed something, because, again, it's really hard to do this at the same time as you're, at the same time as you're commenting on it. But I'm pretty sure I only saw one blink the entire time. And it was a very deliberate sort of blink. I'm gonna take a quick bio break now and like get that fucking video out of my system, and I will be back in just a few minutes.
Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik Women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballad or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support.
And I'm back. Well, that was an interesting excursion into the language of the ancient Hittites. And the fact that Anatolian was mispronounced in not one, but two separate different ways, tells me literally nobody was involved at any point in quality assurance, because you'd go back and you'd say, you know, we're trying to build some credibility as a place to learn languages, so maybe we should have somebody have this pronounced correctly, since it's not even a very hard word to pronounce. Wow, I mean, that is just so impressively low effort. They did not do even the bare minimum. The Indo-European mystery, it's called. Fucking mystery. So, Tony, speaking of, like, grifting and nonsense, Tony Marsh has a video. This universal concept will make you infinitely powerful. And it gives you infinite language learning power. And what I love is about Tony Marsh's videos is that he speaks so confidently about, he tries to make it about every single language when his concepts are, I mean, apart from just not being very good and not being very effective as a way of learning a language in the first place, but they're all very language specific as well. So I can't wait to hear what universal concept he comes up with this time.
One of the best things you can do for yourself in all of language learning is
learn the rule of thirds.
understanding how a language is a two-dimensional grid or a matrix. The word
A language is a two-dimensional grid or a matrix. Okay.
matrix comes from Latin mater, meaning mother. The same word in Spanish, matriz, also means womb. Something
Okay. So
that creates life. The word matrix has a negative connotation ever since the movies. But you
okay. Like
should really be embracing
this guy amazingly, this guy is not a chatbot.
the matrix, because that's what creates matter, which is also from the word mother. Don't be mad at it. I've heard it said whoever believes in God but not goddess is half atheist. But anyway, back to language learning.
Okay, that was a weird little excursion, but okay.
One of my favorite two-dimensional language grids happens to be in English, and it's the would, could, should, might matrix. So the way this works in your notebook is you write simple, continuous, perfect, and continuous perfect
Okay.
down the y-axis, and across the x-axis.
Right now, remember, this is a universal concept. We're which is always great because he does not know anywhere near enough about languages in general to be able to guess what would actually work universally. Like, okay, so this works in English. There are a number of languages where this grid would, at the very least, be compatible with the way the language works. There are literally hundreds of languages where it would not be. And you don't even have to come up with obscure ones.
You do would, could, should, and might. In the simple would square, you have I would do. I would do such and such.
This is just verb conjugations. This is literally just verb conjugations. Every time he does one of these videos, it's like, I'm going to blow your mind with this totally universal thing that will have you learning every language, all the languages, in just a few weeks. And it's like, and it's memorizing, it's fill in the blanks exercises, or it's a verb conjugation table.
If that were the case, I would do this. What would you do? Continuous would, I would be doing. If you were there right now, what would you be doing? Would perfect aspect, I would have done. You could also say I would not have done.
I mean, you could just say that you're talking about the past subjunctive, because you're talking about the past subjunctive.
That if I were you. Continuous perfect in would is I would have been doing. I would have been doing.
This is
across the top here. Could I? Could.
So you remember again. Okay, you're memorizing verb conjugations. How is
do? Should I should do?
Yeah, this is just mind blowing.
Might do. And if you're looking for a noun there, just to use as a placeholder, you can always use that. I would do that. I could do that.
Wow, it's such thoughtful example sentences too. I would do that.
I should do that. I might do that. Can you figure out on your own how to fill out the rest of the squares?
I would assume so. If you can understand this video, I feel like you probably could fill this out.
I could be doing, I should be doing, I might be doing. What should you be doing right now? You should be guessing what goes in the next square. I could have done. Yeah, true.
Well, I mean, it
Could have done
is
that.
just.
I should have.
Does he? What I want to know, really, is does he think he is blowing people's minds with this? That this is some sort of mind-blowing new take on language learning that he's come up with? Or does he know he's just doing a fucking conjugation table?
Done that. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? I might have done that. I might have done that. I could have been doing. I should have been doing. I should have been doing this a long time ago.
I mean, and then here he didn't even bother. He just scribbled in it.
Might have been doing. One more thing you can do is creating kind of like a slot machine effect. So here we have would, could, should, and might, and you can rotate those four words into.
Okay, again, we're memorizing verb conjugations. This is just, I mean, it's so amazing. And why did nobody think of this before, that you can memorize verb conjugations?
Any position, giving you I would do that, I could, should, or might.
I would do that, except I'm not going to because it's crap.
Do that. I would, could, should, or might be doing such and such. I should have done. I could have done. I would have done.
Wow, and like I'm glad that he has decided to be very explicit in explaining this obviously very high level concept here.
And I would, could, should, and might have been doing such and such. All languages are matrices that generate meaning by combining and recombining elements. If you could.
Wow, I mean, that's so profound. Okay. So that is a thing that you just saw. Okay, now somebody in my suggestions on the Discord recommended this video from a TED Talk from someone by the name of Mariana Pascal, who I've not actually heard of before. And I'm very remiss in checking the channels that I created on my own fucking Discord. And I do apologize for that. I really should look at those more frequently. This has been sitting there for a while. So I thought we might just have a look at this. This is learning a language. Speak it like you're playing a video game. And I have no idea what that's going to mean. I don't know what I'm going to think of this, but I'm going to just drop the link in chat right now, and we shall find out what I think of it. Penang Road, okay.
So for the past 20 years, I've been helping Malaysians and other Southeast Asians to speak better English. And through training thousands of Southeast Asians, I've discovered a very surprising
I will
truth.
say I immediately have to wonder, when English native speakers teach English, one of the difficulties that often arises in providing generalizable ideas for language learning is that they often lack a learner's perspective because they haven't necessarily successfully learned any other language to fluency. They're just teaching a thing that they grew up with. I don't know if that's the case with her. I have no idea, but that is a thing that I always kind of watch out for in this sort of context.
I've discovered that how well somebody communicates in English actually has very little to do with their English level. It has a lot to do with their attitude towards English.
Okay.
There are people out there who have a very, very low level of English and they can communicate very, very well.
I mean, I would imagine it depends a bit on what they're communicating, but okay, I'm following this so far.
One of them that I remember was a student, a participant of mine named Faisal. He was a factory supervisor. English level very, very low. But this guy could just sit and listen to anybody very calmly, clearly, and then he could respond. absolutely express his thoughts beautifully at a very low level of English. So today I want to share with you what is
Okay, I'm already confused when we say a very low level of... Okay, because here's the thing. She's speaking about this from the outside. She doesn't know what his thoughts are. She knows what he came up with to say in English at a low level of English. So we don't... that does not necessarily mean that she knows what he was trying to say. She assumes she may just be assuming she knows what he's trying to say. I don't know, maybe she speaks Malay and she spoke to him later and he explained in Malay what he was trying to say, and she said, and it turned out actually he got it across really well. These are things we will probably find out as we go on.
How do they do it? And second of all, why is this so important, not only to you, but to your children, to your community, and to the future of Malaysia? And third of all, what's one thing you can do starting today if you want to speak with that calm, clear confidence that people like Faisal has? So first of all, what is so different? How do people like Faisal do it? So to answer that question, I'm going to take you back about 10 years, okay?
Okay, so she's not so much talking about the ability to express the ideas then. She's talking about the sort of demeanor with which they're doing it. Okay.
So I was training staff at that time, and my daughter at that time was taking piano lessons. And I started to notice two really strong similarities between my daughter's attitude or thinking towards playing the piano and a lot of Malaysians' thinking or attitude towards English.
Interesting.
Now, first of all, I should tell you, my daughter absolutely hated piano. Hated the lessons, hated practicing. This is my daughter practicing piano, okay? This is as good as it got.
And this, okay, now I'm very curious what this means in terms of the similarity. I was also terrible at learning piano. I actually gave it up very quickly because the making two hands do different things at the same time thing frustrated the shit out of me.
Real thing. And she dreaded going to piano lessons because to my daughter, going to piano lessons, she was filled with this sort of dread because it was all about not screwing up, right? Because like for a lot of piano students, to both my daughter and her teacher...
Okay, if this is where she's going here, I think I will actually be liking this because this is one of the things that a lot of teaching methods, modern input-based methods are trying to do is eliminate the fear of failure. Get and minimize it at the very least, because it is toxic to the entire process.
Her success in piano was measured by how few mistakes she made. Now, at the same time, I noticed that a lot of Malaysians went into English conversations with the same sort of feeling of dread. Sort of feeling.
Okay. I mean, this makes a lot of sense because the mistakes don't necessarily say anything about effective communication. They don't necessarily say whether you're getting your idea across, and the mistakes may actually just be one-time things that you don't necessarily do every time, and fossilization, it's worth remembering, is not really much of a thing.
That they were going to be judged by
or any
how many
of a thing,
mistakes
really.
They were going to make, and whether or not they were going to screw up. Now, the second similarity that I noticed was to do with self-image. You see, my daughter, she knew...
I have to say, in terms of set design and in terms of lighting design, I don't know, I feel like you should probably have some sort of top light on this, because her dress actually blends in to the background, and it looks like she's just sort of disembodied legs and extremities and head.
What good piano sounded like, right? Because we've all heard good piano. And she knew what her level was, and she knew how long she'd have to play for to play like that. And a lot of Malaysians, I noticed, had this idea of what good, proper English is supposed to sound like, and what I see a lot of you nodding, and what their English sounded like, and how far they'd have to go to get there. And they also felt like they were, like my daughter, just bad. Bad piano player, bad English speaker, right?
Okay, I mean, I am totally with her here, because you absolutely have to get rid of that sort of mindset to have any chance of getting anywhere with language learning, because you have to accept that you're going to fuck up sometimes, and that comparing yourself necessarily to somebody who is already, excellent at it when you're just starting out is not necessarily a particularly helpful thing to do.
English not so good, I cannot, sorry, I cannot. So I could see these similarities, but I still couldn't figure out, okay, what is it about these people like Faisal that are so different that can just do it smoothly, calmly, with confidence?
Okay.
And one day I discovered that answer, and I discovered it quite by chance. It was a day when my computer broke down and I had to go to a cyber cafe. Now, okay, it was my first time, and I discovered cyber cafes are disgusting places, okay? They're really gross. They're smelly, and they're filled with boys, and they're all playing noisy, violent games. They're just disgusting places. But I had to go there. So I sit down, and I start noticing this guy beside me, and I become very, very interested in this guy next to me. Now, this guy is playing this game that is basically, it's like shooting people until they die, and that's it, right?
Okay. That doesn't narrow down the game, I have to say. That's kind of a lot. That's a genre.
That's the game, right? And I'm noticing that this guy is not very good. He's like, in fact, terrible, right? Because I'm looking and I'm seeing like a lot of shooting and not much dying, right? But what really interested me was behind this lousy player were three of his...
God. Okay, so now she's slagging off this guy's first-person shooter ability in a game she doesn't even know. I mean, that seems... Maybe he was not... Maybe the game was something more than what she thinks it was. Maybe the people that he was not shooting were not supposed to be shot. But okay.
Friends sort of standing there watching him play. And what I really noticed was, even though this guy was terrible, even though his friends were watching him, there was no embarrassment. There was no feeling of being judged. There was no shyness. In fact, quite the opposite. This guy's like totally focused on the bad guys, smile on his face. All he can think about is killing these guys, right? And I'm watching him and I suddenly realized, this is it. This is the same attitude that people like Faisal have when they speak English.
He just wants to concentrate on killing these guys.
Like this guy. When Faisal goes into an English conversation, he doesn't feel judged. He's entirely focused on the person that he's speaking to and the result he wants to get. He's got no self-awareness.
Okay, I mean, I will say, I think she's absolutely spot on with it. I mean, I don't know anything about this guy Faisal and whether her description is anything at all, but we'll just take that as read, obviously. But I think she's absolutely right in terms of this sort of mindset you want to approach all this from.
Thoughts about his own mistakes. Now I want to share with you a real, true example to paint a picture of somebody who speaks English like they're playing piano and someone who speaks English like they're playing a computer game. And this is a true story.
I mean, although I will say, I see where she's going with that analogy. But one of the things that actually kind of got me back into piano a bit, got me into, keyboard anyway, is improvisation. Is just sort of figuring out the intervals. Like, there's more than one way to play. There's more than one way to learn an instrument. And like, if you learn it in terms of not so much, okay, here is the, the rock 4 with all this extremely complicated shit that you have to play, and it's, two-handed, and you have to get it all exactly right, and you will know every time you fuck up because you know what it's supposed to sound like, and you know what you're going to play, is not going to sound like what it sounds like. Then you're going to run into, that's going to be a lot of frustration. But you can, some people just overcome that, and some people are just really fucking good to begin with. But if you're doing it, like the way I do it, I learned about intervals, and I just sort of play, and try to find how to reproduce intervals, and create a sound, the kind of sound that I want to create. And sometimes I get it, and sometimes I don't get it, and it's really cool when I get it, and it's, I make a note of what I did when I didn't get what I was trying to do. And it is a much more comfortable, much more approachable way of working with an instrument, actually. So there is another way to do it.
Story happened to me a while ago.
I mean, and actually that is very consistent with what she's saying about speaking English, incidentally, now that I think about it.
I was in a pharmacy. I had to buy Omega. My doctor said I should get Omega. And I go to the shelf, there's tons of Omega. There's Omega that's high in DHA, Omega that's high in EPA, and I don't know which one to buy. Now the sales rep happened to be there, and I saw she was like this well-dressed professional woman. I walk over to her, and I see this look as she sees me, this sort of, it's a look I recognize very well. Her eyes go all wide. It's sort of that panic, oh my God, I gotta speak to a native speaker, and she's gonna judge me and notice my mistakes. I go up to her and I explain my situation, which Omega do I get? And she starts explaining to me everything about DHA and EPA you could possibly imagine. She speaks very quickly, goes all around in circles, and when she finishes, no idea what to buy, right?
Okay.
So I turn to the girl behind the counter. Now the girl behind the counter, I heard her before, her English level is very low. But when I walk over to her, this girl, there's no fear. In fact, she's just looking at me. You know that look? Like, yeah, okay, so how? Right. Yeah, I've been in Malaysia a long time. So I go up to her and I explain the problem, EPA, DHA. She looks at me and she says, okay, EPA for heart, DHA for brain. Your heart okay or not? So I said, yeah, I said my heart is really, I think it's pretty good. She says, your brain okay or not? I said,
yeah.
Yeah, no, no, my brain is not as good as it used to be. She looked, she said, okay la, you take Omega DHA, can? Problem solved, right? So we've got two different kinds of communication.
Yeah, I mean, what she's saying I think actually makes a lot of sense in terms of language learning. Because she's talking about, you focus on, are you getting the result? And the refinement can come. The refinement will come. The more you're exposed to the language, the more you read in it and listen to it, you will pick things up, and the way you speak will change naturally as you do that. It will evolve. Nobody speaks the same way the entire time for their entire life, even in their native language. And it will be a psychologically much less stressful place to come from, precisely because you're not worried about fucking up. You're just trying to get across the thing that you're trying to get across.
Communicators. We've got the one who's got a high level, but totally focused on herself and getting it right, and therefore very ineffective. We've got another one, low level, totally focused on the person she's talking to and getting a result. Effective. And therein lies the difference. Now, why is this distinction so important? Not just to
I mean, what she's talking about, actually, in terms of language learning, just to bring that in there, is a lot like what Krashen refers to as the affective filter. The sort of psychological barriers to language acquisition that include fear of making mistakes and things like that, fear of embarrassment.
You, to your children, but to the future of Malaysia and countries like Malaysia. And to answer that, let's take a look at who actually is speaking English in the world today, okay? So if we looked at all of the English conversations in the whole world taking place right now on planet Earth, we would see that for every native speaker, like me, there are 5 non-native speakers.
True.
And if we listen to every conversation in English on planet Earth right now...
And the native speakers speak it in all sorts of different ways as well.
We would notice that 96% of those conversations involved non-native English speakers. Only 4% of those conversations are native speaker to native speaker. This is not my language anymore. This language belongs to you. It's not an art to be mastered. It's just a tool to use to get a result. And
well, yeah, although, I mean, one thing I would say there is, of course, with every tool, there are different levels at which you can use it. Like, for example, say, I don't know, assembly language, which is something I'm kind of teaching myself on the side because I'm curious and stuff. Like, you can do it on the level of being able to do like multiplication and put hello world and stuff like that. And if that's all you're ever trying to achieve, that's fine, I guess. There's a very limited use case there. But the better but the more refined your knowledge of it is, the more things you can actually do with it. Lots of tools are like that. I mean, take, I don't know, say a whisk. You can just use it to make an emulsion to just sort of whisk things together and prevent, a sauce or a dressing from separating or something like that. Or you can use it and actually do some fairly complicated stuff that requires some real technique. And it's a matter of where you are with it, what, how much of it you've learned. But the attitude that you approach it will affect that. Like, if you're afraid of screwing up and you are focused on that more than you are on what you're trying to say and what people are trying to say to you, you probably will not get as far.
A real life example of what English is today in the world, real English today. This is another true story. I was at a barbecue a little while ago. This was a barbecue for engineers from all over the world, and they were making hot dogs. Now, some of the hot dogs were regular hot dogs, and some were these cheese hot dogs, with the cheese in the middle. French engineer is cooking the hot dogs, and he turns to this Korean engineer and he says, would you like a hot dog? And the Korean guy says, yes, please. He says, do you want the cheese? And the Korean guy looks around at the table. He says, I no see cheese. French guy says, the hot dog contains the cheese. Korean guy doesn't understand him, right? So the French engineer tries again. The hot dog is making from with the cheese. Korean guy still doesn't understand. He tries again. He says, the hot dog is coming,
They needed me, really.
Coming from, no, the cheese is coming from the hot dog. Korean guy cannot understand. Now this Japanese engineer who's
속에 치즈가 있다.
been listening to this conversation turns to the Korean engineer and he says, cheese integrator. He understands. Okay? Everybody understands. So this is what English is today. It's just a tool to play around with to get a result, like a computer game. Now the challenge is that we know in schools all around the world, right? English is not really being taught like it's a tool to play with. It's still being taught like it's an art to master. And
this is such a weird, I have to say this distinction, because the two things can be true. Like, I would imagine you talk to the people who are really good at various arts, they're probably at least in part good at it because they do not make this distinction. Because they are trying, because what she's saying when she said a tool to play around with, it's like you're trying things out. You're trying to figure out what makes this thing. Yeah, you could find beauty in. Yeah, exactly. Like, you're trying things out. But that's what a good artist is doing, too. Good artists are always experimenting. If you're, like, say, a composer, you're playing around with different intervals between notes, different chords and combinations and things like that, different sequences to see what kind of effect you get. And because you're going for the effect, you're going for this overall sound that gets an overall effect, and so you're playing around with it to see where you hit it. These things are not separate. I think this comes from actually like piano piano lesson trauma more than anything.
students are judged more on correctness.
And also this idea, I just think it's like there is a lot to be said for what you would say up to then, but when you treat these things like tools and arts as separate, Like, first of all, yeah, I mean, you can find beauty in utility, absolutely. There, I mean, a lot of amazing art is actually also can be used for things. I mean, you look at a lot of traditional art forms; they are also they create useful objects. You know, like ceramics and things like that, and actually originated from creating useful objects that also people wanted to make aesthetically interesting. But the thing is, if you have this idea, like, that art is something that you're afraid of and unapproachable, which I think is what's not being entirely sort of deconstructed here. She's saying move away from that and move towards something where you're just sort of playing with it to try to get an effect, but and I get the feeling that she's probably either she's an engineer herself or she's surrounded by engineers. I mean, but in any case, the point not necessarily a place where where you get people who have a lot of experience and positive experience with arts, and so you don't necessarily make this synthesis. But like, if you approach playing the piano the same way, you will get better. You will get better faster. Actually, you will. You will at the very. You may not be able to, read. Play Rachmaninoff or something like that. Yeah, but at the very least, you will be able to make interesting and pleasant sounds when you put your fingers on a keyboard. These things are not at all a dichotomy. That is the one critique I really have of this.
Then on clarity. Some of you might remember the old comprehension exam in school. Does anybody remember in school when you would get a question about a text that you read? You'd have to read through some text, right? And then answer a question to show that you understood the text. And this may have happened to you, that you show that you understood the text, but you got a big X because you made a little grammar mistake. Like this student. Now this student clearly understood paragraph 4, but no, not correct, because he left the letter N off the word environment. But in the real world,
the real world, fuck off. That is a really shitty way to grade these things.
In the world, what would matter is, did you understand the email, or did you understand your customer, so that you can go ahead and take action. Now the problem that I see here, over and over, is that people take the attitude they developed about English in school and they bring it into their adult life and into their work. And if you're in a stressful situation and you're having a conversation and you're trying to give a result to someone...
Yeah, I mean, and of course we get back to the point that we come back to a lot in this, on this stream, which is that a lot of the worst things about language learning are learned in school.
And say it correctly. Your brain multitasks. It cannot do two things at once. And what I see is the brain just shutting down.
Wait. Okay, not sure I followed that. Your brain multitasks. It cannot do two things. Then it's not multitasking, surely.
And you may recognize these 3 symptoms of the brain shutting down. The first one is that your listening goes. Someone's talking to you and you're so busy thinking about how you're going to respond and express yourself correctly.
And when you have these sort of memorization-based approaches, where it's all you're rote memorizing phrases and stuff like that, and the whole idea of forcing speech early, a big part of the problem there is you're going to be so concentrated on getting a phrase out and having it come out the way it's supposed to, that you really, even if you could understand what's being said back to you, you won't necessarily understand it because you'll be too focused on getting the words out.
You don't actually hear what the other person said.
Yeah.
And I can see a lot of nodding in the audience. The second thing to go is your speaking. Your mind sort of shuts down and that vocabulary you do know just disappears and the words don't come out. The third thing to go is your confidence. And the worst thing about this is you may only be confident because you cannot express yourself clearly, but to the person talking to you, they may misunderstand this as a lack of confidence in your ability to do the job, to perform. So if you want to speak English like Faisal with that great confidence, here's the one thing that you can do.
Don't give a fuck, basically.
When you speak, don't focus on yourself. Focus on the other person and the result you want to achieve. Imagine a next generation of Malaysians, all with that wonderful confidence in communication that Faisal has at any level.
Yeah, and what she does not say, but what is very much true, is if you start from this mindset, you will actually end up when learning a language, when interacting in a language, you're more likely to end up getting better anyway, because you're going to be less stressed out all the time. You're going to be more receptive to input. Okay, that wasn't bad. There are things that I definitely disagreed with on there, but the main idea, I think, is totally valid. Let's see. What else have we got? Okay. The reason... Okay, this sounds like it could be... This is Inside Japan with Sasuke. Channel I've never heard of. It's the reason Japanese listening feels impossible. Not familiar with the channel, not familiar with Sasuke, but we're going to find out.
Have you ever listened to Japanese and just completely shut down? Like your brain just stopped working and you feel like...
Okay, I'm gonna drop a link to the channel into chat for anyone interested.
It's impossible to understand. And here are the things, it's not your fault. Now actually, there is a reason for it. Your brain goes through the 3 stages when it's learning to listen to a new languages.
And I mean, with Japanese, part of the problem that you really do have to get used to is it is a fairly high-speed language. Just genuinely is. It isn't just that it sounds fast because you don't know the words. Even when you know the words, it tends to move at a fairly high clip.
And almost nobody explained this. So by the end of this video, you will know exactly why you cannot understand Japanese and how to fix it. Let's get started. So this is not just something I made up from teaching. Languages researchers actually stopped learners in the middle of listening and asked them what they were thinking right at the moment. And they found the same pattern again and again. So basically, when we are listening, our brain goes through the 3 stages: catching the sound, finding the word, and getting the meaning. Let's go through.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, this is making sense so far.
Through each one, and I will explain why Japanese makes each stage extra hard.
Interesting.
Stage 1 is just the simplest one. Your brain isn't even trying to understand meaning yet. It's just trying to figure out where one word ends and the next one starts.
And this is where actually doing a lot of listening, even to materials you do not understand well, even is not a bad idea, because you get used to the rhythm.
Something that surprised a lot of Japanese learners. In Japanese, there are not really like gaps between the words. In English, there's often a tiny pause between the words. In Japanese, it just flows like one long stream of sound. So
see, I don't know about, I mean, because Japanese does not necessarily have gaps between the words, the individual words, but it does have gaps between chunks of words. Because you have to make space for the aizuchi, for somebody to say so desu ne, naruhodo, and everything. So, but the gaps are less frequent because of that. Because you will have like 5 or 6 words together, and then there's a gap.
When Japanese learners tell me like Japanese people talk so fast, and I always say, that's true, but it's not about the speed. It's that your brain hasn't learned how to break the sound into the pieces yet. And
yeah,
your question,
I mean, that is part of it. I mean, the speed matters because the speed actually affects the amount of time you have to break it down.
is how do you actually fix this? And there is a technique called shadowing, and it's perfect for the stage 1. So here is how it works. You
Okay.
take a short clip of
That mobile has been through the wars. Look at that screen.
natural Japanese, just a few seconds, and you repeat it out loud almost at the same time you hear it. The point is not after, at the same time. You are not trying to understand the meaning yet. You are just copying the sound, the rhythm, the up and down of the voice, and like you are.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this is something that I did quite a lot in sort of the formative stages where I actually had a lot of trouble listening still. I would actually, not just simultaneously, but later as well, I would just sort of run things through my head a lot of times until I started to make sense out of them.
The mirror. Do this with the same short clip a few times and something interesting happens. Your mouth and your ears start learning where one word actually ends and the next one begins. So here is something that a lot of people don't realize. Every language is actually use a slightly different set of the mouth muscles. So Japanese use a muscle that you probably do not use much when you speak English. So your mouth generally need a training, like actually workout. Muscle.
Yeah, I mean, even the consonants that are actually roughly the same as ones that exist in English are not quite the same. The tongue does not necessarily hit the exact same spots.
Training. That's why shadowing works so well for this stage. It trains your ear and your muscle at the same time. Also, I'm doing a free newsletter to help you guys to actually speak Japanese. So if you are interested, there's a link in the description. So please check it out. So stage 2 is when your brain now can hear the pieces, but it doesn't know yet if that piece is a word it actually knows. And to be honest, this is the most frustrating stage. And
okay, I'm not sure about that. Because if you can hear the pieces, then surely you have already worked out whether whether or to what extent the individual pieces are familiar.
And I want you to really hear this. That feeling of this sounds familiar, but I cannot remember what it means. That is not failure. That is actually progress.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that. That is definitely true. In fact, if you're listening to materials in a language you really do not know well, especially native level materials, and you start to notice certain words that are getting said a lot. I mean, I remember, for me, because of what I was using for Georgian, a show called Gurmania, the words would be things like tota and marili, and I would start to notice, that these words were being said a lot, tota marili, and I realized very soon it's a little bit of salt. But for a while, I was just getting the words and not necessarily understanding what any of it meant.
Gone from hearing a noise to almost recognizing a word. But here is what makes this stage extra hard in Japanese speech. The exact same sound can mean completely different things depending on how high or low your voice goes. So for example, like hashi is bridge, hashi is chopstick, and hashi is edge. I know it's sound really like frustrating, but yeah, the same sound, different pitch, and different meaning. The most learners' ears are not trying to notice that different at all.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a lot of discussion of pitch accent in Japanese will talk about how to produce it. But the first thing is really how to notice it. The more you are able to pick it when you hear it, the less of a problem you're going to have in producing it.
So even the word you know can get mixed up in your head. So your question is how to fix this problem. The simplest fix is repetition, but done the right way. Pick one short clip, maybe like 30 seconds to a minute long. Listen to it several times in a row. The first time you might only catch...
I mean, I would say you can do this with longer things. I did it with VHS tapes of the X-Files dubbed in Japanese, and I would just watch those over and over again. And the more I watched them, the more I started to be able to pick out from what I heard.
A couple words. The second time, a few more. By the fifth or sixth times, you will start noticing a word you completely missed at the beginning. This works because your brain isn't finding brand new information every single time. It's getting more chances to match a sound you have already heard to a word you actually know. To be honest, staying with the same short clip for a while is a faster way through this stage. So stage 3 is when your brain finally put the word together into one idea. It uses the situation you are in and what was just said to help make sense of everything. And this is when listening finally feel like understanding.
I mean, when it finally is understanding as well.
Instead of just working things out. But here is something you should know. In Japanese, people often leave out the subject of the sentence completely.
So, I mean, and other things too. Sometimes you can leave everything except you can leave the object out too. You can leave, if everybody knows what you're talking about, you can just kind of just say, for example, the verb.
The word like I, she, he, we are often just not said because the situation is supposed to make it clear. So
Yeah.
even after you recognize every single word, you still can lose the track of main part of conversation like who did what to whom. That's not you being slow. That's generally one of the harder part of Japanese, even for advanced learners. So your question is how to fix this problem. So
I mean, and comprehensible input is really key in this. Because if it's done well, you will already start to have, it will include material that is using implicit subjects and things like that, and so you can get more used to it.
my recommendation is look for Japanese content made for learners,
Yeah.
but not like a video for the kid. I mean like real natural Japanese, spoken at the normal pace, and a topic simple enough that you can follow who is talking and what is happening even if you miss a few words. And here is the difference. The native speed news or dramas assume you already understand everything. If
Yeah.
you get lost, there's nothing to help you to catch up. But on the other hand, content made for learners still use a real Japanese. It's just
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying,
chosen
comprehensible
and
input.
explain in a way that give your brain something to grab onto, like
Okay, I would
real
say this
topic,
is all very good
everyday
advice.
situation, or a bit of extra content. My opinion is start there. Do not start with like native news or any crazy drama or anything. So once you feel like it's easy, you can move on to the next stage, like a drama or anime that Japanese people actually watch. And here's the part I really want you to remember. So if you
Okay.
have ever felt embarrassed because you can't
Why has he got the microphone attached to a pencil? Like, the whole point of that kind of microphone is that you can clip it to your body so you don't have to worry about it.
not understand any Japanese, or you only can understand like kids animation or kids content, it's okay. You are not behind. When you study second languages, we all experience the same stage. And to be honest, that's exactly where you are supposed to start. So please
Yeah.
ask yourself, which stage you are right now. If everything doesn't make any sense, you are in the stage 1. So go practice shadowing. If
I mean, I would, if nothing at all is making sense, I would actually say, you're probably not ready to be speaking, so don't really worry about shadowing so much. Watch if nothing's making sense at all, you're probably watching the wrong things. You're probably watching things that are too advanced for you. You want to get to stuff that is at that like absolute beginner level.
words sound familiar but you cannot catch the meaning right after, you are in the stage 2. So pick one short clip and listen it again and again. You recognize the word but still lose the meaning, you are in a stage 3. So find the content made for learner and listen again and again.
I mean, I would be doing that. I would say do that from the start. Just always be doing that.
And after that, move on to the native content. So next time when you listen Japanese and if you feel like it's impossible, it's okay. You are not behind. You are just in the stage 1. Everyone has own pace. So do not compare your day 1 to everyone's like day 1000 or something.
I mean,
learning
that's
new language
definitely a reasonable thing.
is a marathon, not a sprint. Anyway, I'm the guy yaps about anything about Japanese languages or Japanese culture. So if you like it, please subscribe. And
Which I just did. Okay, it is time for me to start thinking about dinner and stuff. So I am going to just wrap up for now. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and if you did, I will be back at 4:30 p.m. on Friday. Have a good rest of your